Good evening and welcome to Tea with Mimi. I think we are live, so I'm just going to take a moment while people find the stream and join the show. Good night, everybody. I hope you're doing well or good morning wherever you are. I hope you're staying healthy and enjoying music. As you know, I started this show during the beginning part of the COVID pandemic, and it became a really nice way of making music, staying connected, and then hosting guests. So I'm just here live at the beginning to tell you that my conversation with my dear friend and world celebrated Mexican conductor Juan Carlos Lomónaco was actually recorded yesterday. We chatted as if it were a live stream, but we had to speak yesterday because of some tech and some scheduling issues. So I'm about to pop that in. And one thing that we didn't talk about on recording for you is that we were both drinking coffee during Tea with Mimi. So please let me know what you're drinking this evening as you watch the show. And I hope you enjoy it. And I'll be back to come in with some music examples as we go. Hello and welcome back to Tea with Mimi. Today I am so delighted to have one of my greatest and oldest friends and colleagues joining me today, conductor Juan Carlos Lomónaco. Bienvenido, Juan Carlos.
It's a pleasure to be in your program, Mimi. I'm so proud to be talking to you and to your audience. So thank you very much for the invitation for this conversation.
Thank you for taking time. And I know you are right now in Mérida, Mexico, where you just finished rehearsal with the orchestra of which you're music director, the Orquesta Sinfónica de Yucatán. How was rehearsal this morning?
It was great. We started with Schumann Symphony Number 4, and I'm very happy because it's the first time that we have complete the strings. Mm-hmm. You know, since the pandemic time, we have had a smaller orchestra. We didn't have the whole strings, and now today we have the complete section of the strings. So it was beautiful to remember this symphony with them in almost normal time.
That is so wonderful, and what a great choice. I love Schumann 4. Well, I love 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But that is so fantastic. I'm so glad that the whole complement is together for today and hopefully part of the pandemic recovery. And actually, that's how many of you know who've been watching the show know that I started it during the initial lockdown phase of the COVID pandemic, when everything was canceled, when we were not making music together at all. And it was just such a nice way to stay in touch. I was playing flute recitals and talking about solo flute music, but then got the software to be able to make a program with guests. And so first of all, before I introduce you formally to our people watching, I just want to say, isn't it funny to speak in English together? Porque siempre hablamos español.
That's right. You know, my English, I hope is fine enough so that we can talk through all the conversation. But yeah, normally we speak in Spanish because you have a fantastic Spanish. It's perfect your Spanish, like all your family as well. And but this time it's time to do it a little bit more in English so that we can be closer to our audience.
It's so true. And I just want to thank you for that, because I love practicing my Spanish whenever possible. And you've helped so much with that. And your English is fantastic. It's actually really fun to hear it instead of the Spanish we usually use together. Pero bienvenidos a todos en español. Welcome to everyone in English. Thanks for coming today to watch this program. I want to introduce conductor Juan Carlos Lomónaco. He is one of the most distinguished Mexican conductors worldwide. He made his professional conducting debut at the age of 17, and then at the age of 23, first conducted the Orquesta Nacional de Mexico, or the Mexican National Orchestra. He was assistant conductor there for 2 years. Today, he is music director of the Orquesta Sinfónica de Yucatán. Is this your 10th season, or how long have you been with the OSI?
Yeah, I've been with them since 2009, so this is my 13th year with them. It's a fantastic orchestra. They are really talented musicians, and we are very proud of the Yucatán Symphony Orchestra. And by the way, we have had the opportunity to have you as a soloist, and we miss you. because you have been one of the most excellent soloists with the orchestra.
Thank you. I'm so honored, Juan Carlos. I miss you. You're a fantastic leader of this wonderful orchestra, and it's really been such a privilege to make music with you and them several times. But it's fantastic. You're in your 13th year guiding that orchestra. Juan Carlos conducts has conducted all the orchestras in Mexico. Orchestrally and opera and ballet, and enjoys an international career. He has regular guest conductor relationships with orchestras in Spain, Poland, and the United States, as well as a very active calendar guest conducting on both sides of the Atlantic. So I'm just so delighted that you've taken this time to talk a little bit about your work and about our work together today. And I also just want to say personally, you were one of the first people I met when I came to study at the Curtis Institute of Music when I was 12. So we really go way back.
That's right. I will never forget this beautiful experience when we were together at school, and you were the youngest student at the school. For the first time, we've had at Curtis a flutist that you were just 12 years old. It was really fantastic. And since then, I got really close to your family and, of course, to you. But you were really, really a kid, you know. And now you are a wonderful woman, a beautiful woman as well. And so the years has passed.
Thank you so much, Juan Carlos. I know I was the youngest wind player at the time, and we became great friends with my family and also with some other Spanish-speaking students at the time, like our compañero Juan Diego Flores, the internationally recognized tenor, good friend, and other friends. We had a little group of Spanish speakers, I think, that would spend time together.
Yes, we got together, all of us. Fernando Valcárcel, Luis Prado, of course, Juan Diego Flores. And also that I think we got really close, make us close. It was to play Latin American music, Spanish music, Mexican music. So that's also one of the things that we did a lot. You remember, Mimi, when we did some ensembles, when I was still at the Curtis Institute of Music, that we did a Mexico-Philadelphia ensemble, that you were soloist, and you play Moncayo, Abatzinac, maybe you remember that.
Yes, you introduced me to this wonderful Mexican composer. And actually, one of the things I wanted to share with our audience is how you're really well known as a champion of Mexican music in your career as a conductor. And so, yes, I got to play with you both in and as a soloist with your Mexico Philadelphia ensemble, which you founded and led for several years when you were based in the United States. I remember performing with you in Philadelphia and in Washington, D.C. We had that fun concert as well. And then you also founded an ensemble, I think Ibero-Americano ensemble in Madrid, right?
Exactly. I changed this. It's the same idea to the promotion of the Ibero-American music, but this time most of the time in Spain, sometimes in Mexico. I also conducted the National Symphony Orchestra every year, a special concert for the Mexican music. We call Academia de Artes. There is a really important organization in Mexico that promotes the composers from Mexico, and I have been as a guest conductor with the National Orchestra in Mexico. And each year we do something different. Moncayo, Blas Galindo, of course, Carlos Chavez, Rodolfo Halfter, that he was born in Spain, but then he moved to Mexico in the war, and we consider him as a Mexican. So that's why I've been really close to the Mexican composers. So it's also wonderful because we have a great composers, Arturo Marquez,
yes,
and so on.
That's so important. And I wanted to ask you about this. First, I think we're going to just share a little bit of music. You're conducting the opening of Beethoven Symphony Number 7 with the Orquesta Sinfónica de Yucatán. We're going to enjoy a little bit of that so people have a taste of your work and some standard repertoire. And then we'll come back with some other collaborations together and your important work with Mexican music. Entonces voy a poner Beethoven. Bravo. And I'm back live now. As I mentioned to you, friends, that conversation with Juan Carlos was recorded yesterday. And I'm now going, this is a new tech skill for me. So I'm about to share the Beethoven that I just introduced. Hello, Krista. Hello, Carla. Hello, friends. Thanks for being here. Let us know what you're drinking at Tea with Mimi. As I mentioned before, Juan Carlos and I both happened to be drinking coffee when we spoke. So I'd love to know. I'd love to know where you're listening from. And if you have any questions or comments, we would love to hear them. So here comes Juan Carlos leading Beethoven 7 with the Orquesta Sinfónica de Yucatán in Mérida, Mexico, of which he is the music director. And here it comes. Too big. Juan Carlos y la Ossi, qué maravilla este Beethoven.
Muchas gracias. Ha sido un esfuerzo muy importante. Ahora estoy hablando en español un poco, para
Está
que nos
bien.
escuche también la gente. El esfuerzo que hemos hecho con la Orquesta Sinfónica de Yucatán, una de las mejores orquestas de México, que tiene un patronato muy importante. It's one of the most important orchestras of Mexico, with a very important board, private board, which in Mexico is not common like in the States. So that's really challenging, and we are really, really proud of this.
That is fantastic. I know, orchestras have all been dealing with problems throughout the pandemic, and all arts organizations really. I mean, it's been obviously, first of all, such a humanitarian crisis around the world, but I think it's great how you and your patrons of the orchestra have managed to perform almost the whole time.
Yes, fortunately, we started really soon. After the 6 months of the pandemic situation, we started, of course, with small orchestra, not very together. And I think it was very important for the orchestra to make them play, even though we didn't have so much audience, of course, but that was really, really important for us. In fact, we were the only orchestra in Mexico for many times, like for almost a year, that were playing together. Yeah, it was really impressive.
That's incredible. Felicidades por esto. Wow. Yeah, it's great. You've been making the music and staying well, and now welcoming the full complement of the orchestra back. When I see you conduct Beethoven or Schubert or Schumann, some of that core repertoire, Brahms, Dvorak, classical interromantic, I think about our time together at Curtis Institute of Music and your studies with the great Otto Werner Mueller, because he specialized so much in this repertoire. And I got to play in orchestra with him and learned a tremendous amount. And I also played in the lab orchestra where students would play, and you would be the student conductors working and being coached by Mr. Mueller. I have a beautiful photo that you sent me of him well before our time at Curtis, but I would love to just share it and maybe hear a little bit about your thoughts about what it was like to study conducting with him. And of course, this is this incredible photo with Ricardo Muti and Gary Grafman, who is president of Curtis when we were students there. But yeah, I think it'd be so interesting for people, especially Curtis students like me, or alumni, or followers who know Mr. Mueller and have played in his orchestra, what it was like for you to study with him.
It was a fantastic opportunity for many reasons. My major teacher of conducting, we can tell from the picture how tall he was. We can tell, I mean, he was, I'm tall, but he was really even bigger than me in all sense. Fantastic teacher, really demanding, really asking us to really learn, to really understand the score, like he would say. Try to understand what is in the score, because sometimes we read the score, but we don't really understand what's going on, orchestration size, and also harmonic size, and all this. So I'm really proud that I had the opportunity to study with this fantastic teacher. I also have a very close relation with him, personal relation. I had the opportunity to listen to him in many ways, and also many of his students that I'm really proud. For instance, Alan Gilbert now is one of the most important conductors in the world. By the way, I had the opportunity to saw him maybe 1 year ago, or even less, in Spain, conducting an incredible orchestra from Hamburg. And I really got so impressed to see him. And that makes me remember very much of Mueller because of the technique. So, of course, there are some other great conductors that studied with him, but Alan is one of the best, like also Miguel Jarbedoya or Rose Milanov as well. So I'm really proud that I had the opportunity to study at Curtis in that time with this incredible teacher.
Well, it's such a tradition. I know for every instrument, or for me as a woodwind player, they're really important traditions that we identify with coming out of Curtis. And of course, I was so fortunate to study with the great Julius Baker, legendary flutist, as well as his former student, Jeffrey Kainer, which was absolutely wonderful to have both of them. But even as a member of the orchestra, as a student, I learned so much from Mr. Mueller in terms of this deep knowledge of the score, the respect for the repertoire, the really faithful study of the markings, especially dynamics. And I'll just mention this because, people can go back and hear the rest of your Beethoven or many other things with you at the helm of the Orquesta Sinfónica de Yucatán on their YouTube channel, or you have many performances that are available. And you kind of emulate this tradition, I think, in your conducting of this repertoire. There's a sort of refinement of sound that you always go for. It's very elegant when it needs to be. The way you structure the balances and the dynamics is just very much part of this wonderful tradition. So I love hearing that. I recognize it from our past a little bit too. But another thing that I just have to say, Juan Carlos, is you gave me my first opportunity to perform the Ibert concerto with an orchestra. And that was when I was 18 with the Orquesta Sinfónica Carlos Chavez in Mexico City. So I will always be grateful for that unforgettable experience. And then I've been lucky enough to perform the Ibert and Nielsen and many other things with you since then. But that was just really a special experience, and it was my first visit to Mexico, and so I will always associate you with the Ibert concerto.
Yeah, also for me, because for me, Ibert flute concerto means Mimi Stillman, because we did it in that time. It's very difficult concerto, by the way, really virtuoso for everyone, not only for the soloists, but for the strings as well. And we had so much fun playing that incredible music. Your work with Mexican composers, and you mentioned some of them, and let me just pull out one that you mentioned, Carlos Chavez, because he's pretty well known, I would say, in the United States, and especially for his friendship with Aaron Copland. Of course, they were together at Tanglewood, and I think in the 40s when Copland was examining American style in his work, such as Appalachian Spring and Rodeo and others. He was also very interested in how Carlos Chavez was embracing a certain kind, or let's say defining Mexican style in music, also bringing in pre-Columbian elements and folklore. So I'd love to just hear a little bit from you. Was this music part of your upbringing
growing up as a Mexican musician and conductor, or did you have to kind of discover it later on?
Well, Carlos Chavez is one of the most important composers, of course, from Mexico, and he also did many things. Like he did the National Symphony Orchestra of Mexico. He was the first conductor of Bellas Artes, Institute of Bellas Artes. He was really close to the government in that time, and also not only as a composer, but also as a teacher. All the main composers from Mexico started with him. And like you say, Carlos Chavez was really related to Aaron Copland. And then Chavez teach like Moncayo, Galindo, and Jimenez Mabarak, Mario Lavista, by the way. Mario Lavista that just recently died, unfortunately. And now also the students of Mario Lavista. For instance, Gabriela Ortiz is an incredible composer that is very often performed with Gustavo Dudamel in LA. So all this tradition of the composition comes from Carlos Chavez. But we also have to remember Silvestre Revueltas, because they were living at the same time. Revueltas was incredibly talented violinist, but of course, maybe one of the most talented composers from Mexico. He did Noche de los Mayas, Sensemaya, and so on. And they were not so well together because they have different kind of positions in the politics. Silvestre Revueltas were more close to the left side, to speak. I mean, closer to the Reds, communism, and also Carlos Chavez was more into the right in that time. So that's why they were in different positions in politics. But both of them were probably the most important composers that we have had.
That is so interesting to hear, especially about how music and politics interacted at different times in Latin America. And even just administratively, Chavez's role as an educator, as the founder of, or first conductor at Bellas Artes, a little bit similar to how closely Villalobos was involved in Brazilian government and Brazilian musical educational policy. And a little different from in the United States, but in this kind of post-World War II period, here in the US as well, composers often had a very public role as cultural ambassadors. William Schumann, director of Juilliard and Lincoln Center, also his music was very well known at the time. Copland founded so many organizations for new music. So that it's kind of an interesting parallel that you bring up here. But I was very fortunate. I got to play some of music by Mexican composers for the first time in your ensemble when I was still at Curtis, and then on those regional tours that you gave of the music. So I think it's great. And when you conduct Mexican music in Spain, is it also lesser known there? Is it something that you're really bringing to new audiences?
Yes, for me, one of the most incredible experience has been to play Mexican music all over the world. I mean, not all over, but especially in Mexico, in Spain. With the National Orchestra of Spain, I had the opportunity to conduct the Huapango, the famous Huapango of Moncayo, and also Danzón number 2 by Arturo Márquez, with this fantastic orchestra, maybe the main orchestra of Spain. So also I have conducted this repertoire in Poland very often, and also in a very interesting experience that I had. The only time that I was in Russia, now the times are very different, but I went to Siberia, to Krasnoyarsk, to conduct an orchestra in Russia, and we also played Mexican music in the first part, and in the second part we did Berlioz' Fantastic Symphony. And it was great to share with these incredible musicians in Russia and Poland or Spain, composers from Mexico. I'm really happy that I had this opportunity. Also in Venezuela with the Simón Bolívar, I had the opportunity to do the Noche de los Mayas, which is a fantastic work by Silvestre Revueltas.
Well, that's really Hi, I'm back live because I'm going to put on a clip from one of the pieces by Mexican composer Jose Pablo Moncayo that Juan Carlos discussed in our chat yesterday that was recorded. This is the exciting close of Huapango that he conducted with the OFUNAM, or the Orquesta Filarmónica de UNAM, Mexican University. So I'm about to put that on, but first I just want to say, ¿estás tomando café, Carla? Qué rico. Hola, hola, Víctor. Hello, Lee. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here, everybody. Chris, I'm so glad you shared about your favorite recording of The Rite of Spring after seeing that wonderful picture involving Ricardo Muti. So here I'm going to share Huapango by Moncayo, and it's just coming as I do the tech connection part. And I'm back after that clip from Juan Carlos Lomónaco, who is my guest on this show, conducting Jose Pablo Moncayo's Huapango, highlighting his work with Mexican music. And we're going to go back now to the rest of our conversation, which also includes some of our live performance of the Nielsen Concerto with the Orquesta Sinfónica de Yucatán a few years ago. So I'm so pleased to share this music and conversation with you. Thank you for being here. And please know that the video will stay live or active, open on YouTube and Facebook, so you can watch later if you're just coming in late or if you want to share it with friends. Please do. Please hit subscribe on our pages, and please continue also to follow Dolce Suono Ensemble on Facebook, YouTube, and live performances. Actually, I and Dolce Suono Ensemble are on Instagram too. So whatever social media you prefer, we'd love to stay in touch. Thanks for being here, and I'm returning to the conversation now. Fantastic. I bet these pieces and this repertoire that you're bringing to the world was incredibly well received, and it's been really fun approaching Mexican music as well as other Latin American music with my Dolce Suono Ensemble as part of our Música en tus manos, or Music in Your Hands project, which focuses on the chamber and popular music of Latin America and Spain and Latino composers in the US, as well as engaging Latino communities. So it's always great to just see your programming and learn about new works that way. I wanted to ask you, though, I was always so impressed that you are so active in different conducting genres. I think you do an opera every year, or at least one, with the Orquesta Sinfónica de Yucatán, but you conduct opera, symphony, ballet. What is it like to switch among those different types of genres?
Well, it's a really huge challenging to conduct ballet or opera. It's really difficult because there are many things going on at the same time. So we have had the opportunity with the Yucatán Symphony Orchestra that we have performed about 13 or 14 titles: Carmen, La Cenerentola, Barbero de Sevilla, El Elixir de Amor, Bohème by Puccini, Mozart, we did Marriage of Figaro, we did Don Giovanni. So all these experiences that we had with the Orchestra of Yucatán in the opera has been great. Also, I've done a lot of ballets, especially in Mexico City, also here, but in Mexico mostly, with the Orquesta del Teatro de Bellas Artes and with the National Company of Ballet, which is the main ballet of Mexico. I had the opportunity to do Nutcracker, of course, but also Prokofiev, some of the Prokofiev's ballets. And, it has been really incredible experience. As a conductor, we learn a lot because it's not the same to conduct without a ballet in front. That you must take care of the tempos because it's very important for the dancers, for instance. Also for the singers to breathe with them, to really take care of them because they are acting at the same time. So one of the most great experiences for a conductor is ballet and opera. Absolutely.
That's amazing because I know as a flutist, I'm not acting, but when I'm playing with you, of course, I need to breathe, and you're right with me, just understanding the breathing and giving me that chance. And I know you're a string player. Didn't you play in Curtis Orchestra when we were both at Curtis, sometimes in violin?
Yes. I was playing also with the orchestra. Then I started the music with the violin. I was 6 years old.
Wow.
When I started with the violin, and at the beginning, I did my career as a violinist, and I played also with the National Symphony Orchestra in Mexico City. So my first relation with music was as a player, which I think is very important also for a conductor to play, because conducting is, by the way, is about the same. It's how you learn the piece, the rhythm, the melody, everything comes really close to when you perform an instrument. So it's very important for a conductor to play an instrument.
Right. So that's great. Even as a string player, you're very, very conversant with the breathing of wind players or singers because you accompany them a lot. I'm so interested in how conducting for ballet works. Do you meet with the principal dancers to go over the tempi? Do you sometimes have to adjust a tempo depending on what the dancer is doing? Like if the pirouettes are a little faster, a little slower one day, I guess it's like playing, right? We change, but how is it to accompany dance?
Well, I used to go first with the company, with them. They are, they have a rehearsal without the orchestra. Sometimes with recordings, which is not so good. It's better with the piano. So that I can listen to the tempos that they are used to. And I also, you must, as a conductor, watch all the entrances if they are coming from the back or from the, and sometimes they need more time if they are going to do a different kind of rotation. So it's very important to be close to them before the first reading with the orchestra. Then, of course, just the orchestra without the dancers, and then all together. That's the most difficult thing. It's similar to the opera that we, as a conductor, go and rehearse just with the singers and piano to make sure we have the same versions, the cuts, the breathings, cadences, and also to wait. If you wait a soloist for a cadenza, the same thing with the movements with the dancer that goes like this and catch them.
So you must have to know the choreography really well. That must keep things really exciting and fun.
So it's important to be watching them. So I remember Mueller advised that he used to say the brain should be not on the score. The score should be on the brain, and not the face watching the score. So almost by heart the score, so that we have more freedom to really watch what's going on.
You know, we did most recently, a few years ago, you had me in Yucatan to do the Nielsen concerto, which is one of my favorite concertos. It's 20th century. It's by the Danish composer Carl Nielsen. And that concerto, I find, is so deeply moving. It is a little, it unfolds differently every time because there's a lot of freedom built in, both with actual cadenzas for the flute large and small, but more just the way the lines flow. It's very vocal at times, as well as very flashy and instrumental. And I remember feeling just like, you know, sometimes I don't see you in the eye. I see you right here. I feel you, or you feel my breathing probably. Sometimes I look over, you're right there with me. It was such a great experience. I'm so excited that we had that experience together. Thank you.
Yes, also, you know, the flute is an instrument that needs a lot of breathing and freedom, like a singer. And you mentioned now one of the most difficult concertos, Nielsen, but also this composer wrote an incredible clarinet concerto, really difficult as well. But the flute concerto is with a lot of freedom and a lot of expression. So it was fantastic to have the opportunity with you to do this masterpiece.
Thank you. No, it's always great seeing the videos of you and your orchestra, because I recognize so many of the members, and I hope you give them muchos saludos de mi parte. Ahora yo voy a compartir un poco de Nielsen con todos. I'm going to share some of the Nielsen porque tenemos una grabación de nuestro concierto.
Excellent. I'm so glad that you got the recording.
Nosotros, yo creo que...
Oye, esa foto es una belleza, esa foto.
Gracias, y me encanta también. Yo creo que fue inmediatamente antes de Nielsen o después de Nielsen.
Yo creo que fue después porque mira mis pelos.
De toda la energía de la música.
Fue hermosísima. Y hay otras, las de la entrada del teatro.
Sí, creo que tengo esto también. Es un gusto compartir con todos nuestras fotos. De la entrada tengo con, ¿sabes? Tengo con unas miembros del equipo de la orquesta aquí mismo, pero es cierto. Aquí estamos, obviamente, después de un concierto con esos ramos tan hermosos de flores y
Hermosísimo.
sí, y es el hermoso Teatro Peón Contreras, donde tocas allí en Mérida, en esa...
Está precioso, precioso.
Sí, el teatro es precioso, la ciudad es preciosa.
Sí,
También fue
es
muy
como de otra época.
cierto. Yo creo que este teatro es como del principios del siglo XX, creo.
Sí, del siglo XX, efectivamente, a principios del siglo XX.
Ay, qué
De
lindo.
forma italiana.
Es como un teatro de ópera, ¿no? Dentro.
Sí, pequeño.
Ese estilo, sí, pero qué hermosura. Yo creo que tengo otro recuerdo de mi estancia, una de mis estancias contigo en Mérida, aquí mismo, en una hacienda donde visitamos.
Preciosa foto.
Ahí con Fonny. Sí, otra vez, gracias Juan Carlos, fue un placer verte virtualmente. Gracias por compartir esta información tan interesante de tu carrera con todos. It was such a pleasure hearing from you and speaking with you, and I cannot wait to see you, hopefully soon.
Thank you very much. It has been a really pleasure to see you. It's always wonderful to share with you. Congratulations, Mimi. You're a fantastic musician, but also leader with these incredible projects that you have and this program. I'm really proud to be part of this. Muchas felicidades, Mimi. Muchos abrazos y besos para toda la familia y cuídate mucho. all the best to the people that are watching us as well.
Muchas gracias, Juan Carlos. No, de veras, mi admiración para ti no tiene límite. De veras, agradezco mucho tus palabras y mucho cariño de mi familia y esperamos verte pronto.
Muchas gracias. All the best.